Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now today is part 2 of a 2-part series. This here in my hands, this is the Bestech Horizon prototype. This is a collaboration between myself, Outer Limitless Designs, and the talented Kombou. Now again, this is a 2-part series, so if you have not seen part 1, Part 1 was a good quality field test of this prototype to see how it performed, to get my general understanding of the ergonomics, the performance, the overall blade geometry, to make sure this was going to be a viable option moving forward. And I have to say, it exceeded my expectations, which quite honestly are very, very high. I love this Horizon fixed blade. It is fantastic. But today what we're going to do, we're going to look at this in a little more detail. Now I do have 2 of these. This one here is the one that I used for the field use, and just a second copy here. Both of these I have been using at length, both out in the field, but also at home for general cooking and food prep tasks, and I am very happy with these. So I do want to show you these in detail, give you some more understanding of the overall specifications on these knives, some of the thought process moving forward, and what you might expect to see if things move forward with Bestech. Now the first thing is pretty funny. Remember, I have co-designed this with Kombou. So Kombou, a Polish designer, we're combining across the world to make this design. Well, this all started with my little book here, which if you got your hands on my little books, you could get ahead on some knife design and you could get ahead on creation of a YouTube channel. So I hold these pretty tight to the vest, and I have another design kind of hidden underneath here. But on the top you can see this is the original sketch I had for the Horizon. Now, I didn't know that was going to be the name at the time. I didn't know what the final design aesthetic was going to be. All I knew is this was the shape of the knife and the overall general features that I wanted in a blade. So I took this, I handed it over to Kombou. He went and he stylized the knife, and well, this is exactly what we came up with together, which is really neat. Now there was a slight iteration prior to this. We made a couple of little design changes to kind of tweak things out, and at this point, now that I've gotten this out into the field and I've used it at length, I do think we're going to make another maybe minor modification, but I do need to talk to Kombou just to soften up a couple, and I mean a couple, little hot spots that if we can nail it, it's going to take this from incredibly good to literally perfect in my mind. It does not need much. And so the first thing, as you see, comparing this against my original conceptual sketch, I did scale this up a bit as I moved forward, got this scanned in, scaled it up, and was happy with the overall size. And then from there, well, we kind of found a middle ground where we scaled it down a little bit and found this like happy medium in between to where now the Horizon fits in roughly that 5-inch blade size class. Now this here, you can see just a pretty close approximation to what I originally drew. However, this has definitely been stylized by Kombou, which at first when you look at this, you can see some very reminiscent Kombou styling. Like right here, the little scallops and the sweeps, and then underneath just the little finger grooves, and the way everything comes together and indexes and nicely flows into that blade shape with that nice fuller, the unsharpened swedge on top, and just the way the plunge line and grinds come together gives this just a nice, elegant look overall. But the thing that I think is very interesting, and it actually took me a while to catch on to this, but it is also fairly reminiscent of the Ornetta. Now, not that these are a spitting image, but there are definitely some similarities in a lot of cool ways. And first thing, of course, it's going to be that Kombou styling, but when you look at it here and you see the trademark sort of scallops there on both of these popping through, the way it is just stylized and the cutouts underneath, that just screams Kombou. The subtle design tweaks on the pommel end just to get that nice shape, and the sweeps and lines where the plunge line meets up into that fuller, and then the fuller extending across the entire top of the blade. Sort of similar in a way, and even to the point where if you look at the overall blade shape in the belly, it's just kind of playing well together. So not that these are exact spitting images, but you can clearly see at this point the elegant and just fantastic Kombou influence. So for me here, having this in my hands, not only the ability to get my overall like design, and I'm not even going to say aesthetic because it's not, it's like the functional design that really comes through in my designs, but then the elegance and design aesthetic from Kombou. This is just a joy of a project and something that I am more than proud to work on with somebody who's just an amazing person all the way across the world. Now, continuing to demonstrate some of my design overall and the sort of geometry that you get out of this. Again, you can see that oddly, the handle and the blade are not traditionally proportioned. And when you look at a lot of my designs, I tend to have longer handles. Like here, for example, this is my T17.5L, which is a 5-inch blade size class with the L handle, which is the long handle. The long handle actually comes from the original handle on my 6-inch model, which is the T17.6. So again, this here being a 6-inch blade size class, and you can see even for a 6-inch knife, a slightly longer handle. I tend to prefer that for a number of reasons. Number one, it buys you a little bit more space for a larger hand. Number two, it helps to evenly balance the knife, oftentimes, at least for a larger blade, between the blade mass and the handle mass for a neutrally balanced knife. But third, you can get back and do some light chopping. And that was my original design concept for the T17.5L, where you get the benefits of a thinner stock and a lighter blade and a slightly more manageable blade length, yet at the same time the performance and the size of the handle to allow you to do a little bit of light limbing and chopping. And well, here with the Horizon, you get that exact same thing. So here, a slightly larger handle for slightly larger hands. Now I do have a large size hand, and you'll notice that at first, this handle looks like it's surprisingly large, but when you grab it and it indexes and it just melts into your hands literally perfectly, you realize that handle's sized just right. And moving up into the finger choil, very comfortable. Again, you do have the ability to index nicely. So as we grab it here and just index so nicely, just getting further up on the blade for a controlled grip. This knife just feels about perfect in the hand. I am very pleased with how this feels. It's comfortable, it's balanced, it just feels right, nice and natural. Just a great feel in the hand. Now, as we look at the lengths associated with the Horizon, here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 3/4 inches of cutting edge, which translates to here roughly a 1-inch finger choil. So overall, you do pretty much end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 3/4 inches right into that finger choil, which is a nice size blade for more of a belt and field knife. Not quite as unwieldy as a slightly larger blade, but a little more blade length than some of your smaller bushcraft style knives, which I like. And then in terms of the handle length, well, in your grip area, 1, 2, 3, 4 3/4 inches. So as you can see, very balanced overall. And in fact, you know, when you really try to balance out this knife, you'll notice it's fairly neutrally balanced right in this choil area, which is fantastic. So gives you a nice nimble feel while it's in the hand. And when you want a little more control, you get up into that finger choil and it just feels really good. So I am overall very happy with the aesthetic, and I am very happy overall with the general geometry. Now, blade stock thickness here, 5.22 millimeters. 5 millimeter stock is roughly 3/16 of an inch. So you are going to get a nice, robust blade, but the interesting thing is we've actually lost a bit of the mass with a high saber grind. So that's the first thing, a nice high saber grind, but also that unsharpened swedge and then milling out through that fuller. So even though it's a slightly thicker blade stock, you are losing some blade mass, which is nice, and that helps keep it very nimble, and it is very well balanced with these G10 handle scales and the overall semi-long handle, even though it's not as long as it really looks. But you can see just nice, thick, full tang right through until you get right up to about here, and then it swedges down. Well, guess what? Your thumb landing in that perfect spot where it's not really bearing on the thinner steel, but right where you want it, right on the thick part on the top of the spine there. That's fantastic. But coming up towards the tip, that unsharpened swedge there sort of dies off, and then you get a nice stout point. And the nice thing, and actually my buddy Joe from Survival Attitude pointing out that, well, when you need to do some push cuts and you get right up on the front of that blade, because you're not bearing on the thinner part with the unsharpened swedge there, that's really nice, because at that point you're really able to get up on there, do some push cuts, and it's comfortable on your thumb, yet at the same time just squared off enough that you saw in part 1. I was able to do some of the scraping and then ripping on that ferro rod to get my fire started. Now, something that's really nice, I love how Bestech did this with these bolts. Now, I'm curious on the inside how these are fashioned. The key for me is going to be being able to get this handle apart. With a fixed blade knife, I always like to be able to remove my handles. So did these fashion these in a way that I can get it off? We're going to have to see. And so these here are a T6 Torx bit, and backing these off, these come off very easy, no problem. And that's kind of nice. Yeah, these thread right out. No worries, no concern. Very simple. So that's a nice thing. And backing these all the way off here and sliding these out of the way. Yeah, I mean, I was expecting to see maybe sort of a D in there, but no. And no skeletonizing at this point, so you can see if we did want to play with the balance just a little bit more and then lighten up the knife just a bit and get it a little more forward weighted up into the finger choil, we can definitely do that. So a nice opportunity here to really lighten up a bit if we want. In my opinion, we have the ability to potentially even lose that center screw, although I do have to say it looks really good, so keeping that center bolt might be worth it. But maybe just a little bit of skeletonizing in some strategic locations might be worth it, but it's really not needed. This knife is nice and neutrally balanced right through this finger, index, and choil area. So just an observation and showing what we have going on underneath these scales. And just real quick, talking about weight reduction, well, let's see where this stacks up against a couple of other knives. So first off, here, the Horizon, this weighing in at 10.1 ounces. This is going to be a little bit funny because I have some weird scales on here, but this is my SE6, weighing in at 12 ounces, my T17.5L, 9.2 ounces, and here an SE5 at a whopping 1 pound, 0.4 ounces, so 16.4 ounces. And so you can see where this fits in amongst the lineup. Just completely different knives in a way, but some references for you. I mean, just that overbuilt tank of an SE5, and again, being in that 5-inch blade size class. You can see actually the handle just about the same length there, and some similar contours in a way, yet the SE handle much girthier. The Horizon's going to be a nice slim line, kind of easy carry for you, very slicey, and really finding the middle ground between that hard use knife and something that's going to be a little bit maybe lighter or more capable for, hunting, skinning, something along those lines. And you can see even here against the T17.5L, just kind of where all of these fall. So the Horizon, a perfect middle ground in my opinion. I don't know exactly what Bestech's been up to for the past couple of years, but what I can say is more and more, I am just getting blown away at their fit and finish and their construction. It is so tight in tolerance. It's unbelievably good. I mean, everything on this, extremely good. I mean, they've always been good, But I do have to say, I feel like they've really stepped it up over the past couple of years, and especially since I've been watching as their U.S. service representative. I get to see all the knives, and I, really get to deal with customers and see what some of the issues are. And their most recent work has just been so nice. Incredibly good, incredibly tight tolerances, and this is definitely a case of that. So this Horizon fixed blade, just fitting the mold, very well done. Fit and finish, absolutely fantastic and very, very nice. Now, a couple last details. I was kind of curious, the thickness behind the edge here. So as we get onto this, 0.87 right behind the edge, maybe 0.84. And just to put it into perspective, one of the best carving knives I have, my T17.5, that is 0.94. So pretty darn close, but at the same time, even a little thinner on the Bestech, but at that, this is roughly a 3/16 stock, and it's 5/32 on the TFK. So getting real nice grind line, nice geometry, just fantastic. And something else worth pointing out, I did all my field use with this one here. So sort of that snow camo G10. I mean, I did a huge amount of field work with this. You saw it. The coating on this is insane. It's like an acid coating. It's not really like a heavy coating, and most of what you're seeing here is like smudges and fingerprints. This is insanely durable, very nicely done. I actually really like it. And the other thing is, well, all I've done at this point is literally, and when I mean literally, I'll just do it again. I took the knife. This is my Work Sharp field sharpener. I just stropped this like 1, 2, 3, 4, just to polish the edge a little bit. Then on the fine ceramic rod, 1, 2, 2. Just a couple of passes on each side just to touch it up, and well, this is phenomenal. Little snag maybe, but generally speaking, very good. I mean, for all of that use and hard use at that, I'll take it. So, I mean, we'll see where this ends up. I mean, that's pretty good, all things considered. I'm definitely happy with the edge retention. As I do the nail test, pretty much grabbing right here, it's sliding just a little bit. So you can tell I dulled out just a little on the belly there. But back here, nice and sharp. Is it shaving sharp? It's close, not quite there. I mean, not quite hair popping sharp, but I'll give you that. So where is this going to land? I mean, what materials are we ultimately going to use? I'm not too sure. I don't know if it's going to end up being D2. I personally am thinking I would love an option in 154 cm. Bestech's been using 154 cm effectively this year. I know they have some on hand. I don't know the stock thicknesses or sizes, but I'm hoping 154 cm would be an option. I think that would be a great general option for a knife of this size. I know a lot of people like the Sandvik steel. Personally, in a knife of this size, I don't think that's really the route to go. I love N690. I've had great success with N690, and even here in the D2, not bad. So I would love to offer this in a budget option and get this knife into as many people's hands as possible. The other thing would be potentially creating a premium line. So what would that be? Would we be putting, M390 on this? Hard to say. Is there another option for handle scales? Hard to say. But overall, this is very, very exciting. I'm happy with this. Future development at this point, well, let's talk it through. So at this point, I do need to talk to Kombou. This is a collaborative design, and we need to make decisions together. So I do have something in the works to speak with him real soon. We're going to finalize some of these little design elements, make sure this is perfect. We're going to talk about materials. We're going to talk about the final fit and finish and how we want this to be. And also, we kind of need to make some decisions on the carry system. Now, this is a perfect candidate for kydex. Not only is this a quality knife for general bushcraft and sort of woodscraft, this is just an awesome field knife altogether. It's a little bit tactically inspired. It has a nice guard. It's definitely going to be durable, and it has a nice piercing capability. So even if this is not necessarily used for the bushcraft environment, having a little tactical feel, I think this definitely could apply. So a good quality kydex with universal rivets, the ability to attach a number of different clips or attachment systems is going to be key. So I'm going to be working closely to develop this kydex, make sure it meets my standards for carry capability, general overall use, whether it's bushcraft or wilderness use, tactical application, or even EDC. A good quality kydex is going to be key. I do say all the time, the carry system can make or break the user experience. So if you don't get the sheath right, people aren't going to want to use the knife. And this is a knife I can tell you right now, I want people to use it. But if you're a fixed blade fan, you're going to want to use this. This knife is awesome. I want it to fit everybody's needs. So the carry system is going to be almost equally important as the knife itself. And so with that said, this is the Horizon Fixed Blade Part 2. A tabletop review of this and general impression overview so you can see it in detail. I hope you enjoyed this. A great big thank you to both Kombou, who is absolutely fantastic, and the people at Bestech Knives for making this come to life. Moving forward, the final decisions, the final little design elements and tweaks, that sheath system, and, well, final material selection. And I'm hoping the next time you see this, it's with a production announcement, or maybe it even hits the Bestech lineup. And if you like this content, do me a favor, take a look at my Outer Limitless 2 channel, which is more on the tactical and firearm side of things. At this point, that channel's growing quickly, so if you like what you see here on Outer Limitless, do me a favor and check me out on Outer Limitless 2. So alright guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.